Good afternoon. I can't see you, but hopefully you can see me. Don't let Valerie fool you. She is competitive. I've played tennis with her, and I've watched her play tennis. And she actually willed herself to winning the 3D printer at our maker party this summer, which her daughter now has at Syracuse, where she's fabricating jewelry. So there's a theme going through today, a little bit of a theme, and it's about agency. It's about that something inside of us that we can go out and make our lives happen. And certainly Valerie did that. And the Lisi sisters had me in tears. And, you know, just seeing them in their yard playing and looking at the pictures of their parents and the grandparents and feeling the support that they got to make their lives happen. And not once did they mention the word school. And I'm going to talk about trying to build an ecosystem of learning here in Newport that gives all of our kids a shot at getting that kind of support. And Tuesday, I was talking with a colleague, working on finding ways that we can demonstrate to the world that kids do learn outside of a school very powerful things. And she told me a story. Her fourth grade daughter, there was a house down the street, a mansion sort of thing that they've been renovating. And her fourth grade daughter said, I want to know about that place. I want to research it, and I want to write a story, just because she wanted to do that. Agency. So, you know, I went online, talked to a couple people, and went to one of our cultural institutions and asked for help. And she got a little bit of help, but not the kind of help that you would expect a fourth grader active of their own volition to get. And I don't want to blame anyone here, but I think it's kind of where we are now, that we expect these things to do it all for our kids. It doesn't work. These things were invented in the late 1800s as factory model schools designed to train people for a very, very specific thing. So I think we have a real opportunity here in Newport to build a community in which we all donate something, which is our time, which is our talent, which is possible. Let me tell you my story. It was 1990. I was living in Boston. I was working for Greenpeace. I was raising money. I was chasing submarines. I was climbing smokestacks. And I was reading the Boston Globe. And what I saw in there day after day broke my heart. It was the schools, violence, shootings, just basic disaster jumping off the pages of the newspaper. But I felt like I was part of the problem. Because here I was, about 29 years old, living in a city, and I didn't know any kids. And that just didn't seem right, because in my ideal world, and I may be a little too idealistic, but so be it, if I don't know any kids, that means I can't connect with them. Because in my ideal world, we all have to be connected. We have to lift each other up, and when we're down, we've got to work together to make things happen. We've got to share our talents. So I got on my bicycle and I rode over to the Lewis Middle School in Roxbury, which is right here. And Mr. Bevelak said to me, he goes, Steve, we have teachers who don't show up every day. We could use you every day. So I became the building substitute at the Lewis Middle School, a school teeming with adolescents, fights, madness, but beautiful children. And a couple of things broke my heart there. One, they would punish the kids by forcing them to eat their 22-minute lunches in the classroom. Or, in the main cafeteria, they would just say, no talking at all. No recess, no talking. And then at the end of the day, there was this one teacher who was always dressed to the nines. And I think he had another job. And he would just yell so loudly at the kids and just tell them to be quiet and sit down. I was like, I cannot believe this guy is doing this. And don't get me wrong, there were a lot of good teachers in that school, but just the overall climate was not healthy. And I tried to do my little thing and take them outside. There's a beautiful park right next door and read. And I did that for 2 or 3 times, but the administration said, no more of that. So, in a further step to get to know some of the kids, I volunteered at a local bicycle shop. Taught the kids to fix bikes, taught the kids to ride bikes, and on weekends I would go for rides all over the city with some of the kids. The Emerald Necklace in Boston, beautiful network of paths. And it was one Saturday. We were on the Massachusetts Avenue Bridge. You know, there's Harvard and MIT off to the north, and the Charles River sparkling. Glorious day, teeming with energy. And one of the Spanish-speaking kids looks at me and says, "Are we in the Caribbean?" And he meant it. We're 4 miles from his house. And my point is, I've been doing field trips with kids for over 20 years. Done them by bike, done them by plane, done them by boat, done them by foot, done them by car. And most of our kids are just cut off from what goes on out in the real world. And here's the thing that just breaks my heart, that as human beings, we are absolutely born to learn. Put the 2-year-old, the 4-year-old, the 5-year-old on the ground. Watch them go. All they do is fill themselves up. Look at the Lisi sisters in their backyard jumping and cooking and baking and making. There's nothing stopping these girls, right? But boom, 5. What happens? The bell rings. We put them on the bus. We drop them off at school. We sort them by date of manufacture. Thank you, Ken Robinson. Greatest TED Talk ever. And then we expect them to pop out 13 years later, ready to go. But you know what happens after 13 years? We've got some certified, grade A. You know where that came from? Meat. Grade A meat, right? The rest of us, B's, C's, D's, many of us, F's. Some 30% of kids don't even get out of high school, right? So I think we can do better because we are born to learn. We love joy. We love to do all these things. So that's Fab Newport. That's where I work. Spent my last 8 years at a school working at the Met School as a community learning specialist, developing internships and community programs. I was heavily involved with Sail Newport. I helped start Bike Newport. And I saw the relationships with the kids and the community internships, the return that the kids got here, and the return, like the people who spent their time with the kids. Great stories about what it did for them. Now, at Fab Newport, where I've been for 1.5 years now, I started at the Met School because I felt a need to get children more involved with 21st century tools. Our mission is to liberate the maker intrinsic in all of us. But yeah, we got 3D printing, laser cutters, vinyl cutters. You can see the electronics there in that slide. But we really want to develop kids who can go out and make their lives happen. Give them that sense of agency. Exactly what the Lisi girls were talking about. You got to make it happen, right? So here's a story about a kid who made it happen. Summer of 2015, my first year summer at the helm of Fab Newport, we had a float your boat program. Yeah, we did a little boat building, but most importantly, we wanted to expose our kids to the rich array of opportunities that exist in Newport. We biked to the beach. We biked downtown. We biked to the Elms. We got a harbor tour. We met with Dave, and he showed us about, clean ocean stuff. We sailed out of Sail Newport. We even got to sail on a 12-meter. We went over to Jamestown. We sailed on a Hobie Cat. 11 kids from the North End. Most of them never sailed. Some of them had never been on a boat. At the end of the summer, 2 boys fell in love with sailing. They had never sailed before. They absolutely loved it. And it was this summer, 2016. We did not have the resources to run the Float Your Boat program. I didn't want them to lose the opportunity, so I connected them with Newport Yacht Club. They have a great program. They offer some scholarships. And one of the boys, with the help of his mother, they got signed up. And the other kid, a little hectic, applied to the wrong program, didn't get the opportunity. And it was the Monday. The one guy was headed down there, and you know what the other kid did? He got on his bike and pedaled down there with him, and they let him in. This is a scrappy kid who doesn't do well in school, but he's one of the most helpful kids at school. Now we got to shake things up a little. This slide here was drawn by a Met School sophomore. shaking up the school. Kids are floating out to around opportunities that exist in town, and those are all acorns on the bottom there. I'll get to the acorns in a minute. And this girl acted on her own behalf. She did her freshman year up in Bristol at the high school there, decided she wanted more, came down to the Met School, and she's already interned at the Norman Bird Sanctuary and the Newport Art Museum. And when we think about it, here in Newport, there are so many opportunities, cultural institutions. Think of the Preservation Society, Iris, Sail Newport, Bike Newport, Fab Newport, the Newport Art Museum, the Historical Society, the Redwood Library. These are all places of learning. And then we also have the natural beauty of Cliff Walk, the waterfront, all that stuff where people can go and engage. But unfortunately, we don't all feel comfortable accessing these places. Case in point, was talking with a 23-year-old woman, native Newporter, graduated from Salva, and I asked her the other day, I was telling her about the talk. I said, is there any place in Newport that you haven't been in that you just, might like to go in? And lo and behold, she said she'd never been in the main gallery at the Newport Art Museum. And I found that a little odd, because she's an artist, and she had taken classes at the Coleman Center. But I get it. I've been in there many times, and I kind of walk up the stairs, and they're all polished, and it's glassy on the outside, and there's the lady there who goes, "May I help you?" And, yeah, you could help me. And she's a really nice woman, and again, it's no fault of her own, but it's just sometimes the way we feel when we go into these places. So I'm asking us right now to imagine this. To imagine, what if on all these wonderful places there were something like a button? I haven't figured out all the technical aspects of that yet. That's why you're here. There were a button that said, "Welcome to the Newport Art Museum. We would love you to come by and take a look. We'd love to show you our art, to show you our studios, to meet our people, and we will go out of our way to get you involved in making art or curating art or whatever you want to know about, because we're interested in your life. We're interested in our community." Or, for that matter, if you went down to the Marriott, think of the Marriott, the big building. Remember when they built that place, how angry people were? That big building, people come from all over the world to stay in the Marriott. And, there's culinary, there's concierge, there's all these things that go on inside of there that kids would love to know about. And then, if you wanted a little more about a certain thing, you could go back for another tour and get online playlists and meet some of the restaurant people and the hotel people in town. There's hundreds of great people that would support the lives of our children. Or even this one. I like this one because I like to play tennis. International Tennis Hall of Fame. Hit the button. You want to play tennis? Come by at 4 o'clock on Tuesday. We'll put a racket in your hand. If you like it, if you want more, we'll get you in lessons. We'll even introduce you to some people who play tennis with you once in a week, and then introduce you to a whole network of other people. And it does sound a little confusing, and I can be good at confusing people. That's why I've got help. And so we've been working in the lab on this model of cognitive apprenticeship. So the idea is, as our children go out into the world and start collecting experiences and meeting people and going places and developing skills, they'll move from novice to apprentice to journeyman to master. And they'll collect these in a form that's digital, that can be shared with their schools, it could be shared with potential employers. But I believe, most importantly, it will start building up the kids, that self-esteem that is so important to go out and act on your own, to believe that you're capable of that. The symbol of our ecosystem right now, we're open to ideas, is the acorn, because I think the acorn is this cool little thing. In fact, I was in the art museum yesterday. We have an exhibit up there, Fab Newport does, and there was a woman in there making acorns. I was like, wow, she gave me one. This is so cool. But the acorn is like this tiny little seed that has so much energy in it. And an acorn, if nourished properly, can grow into a majestic tree that, standing on its own, can provide habitat, shade, shelter. But harvested, that acorn could be turned into a beautiful piece of furniture. Or could be made into a boat. You could sail around the world on an acorn. What a wonderful thing. And, oh, the girls. You can't see the girls. Oh, well. So those are 11 girls who spent a week with us at camp. They're all most of them are from the north end of Newport. And I think of those girls as the acorns that will require a special set of nourishment in order to grow into their full potential selves. And I'm asking you, if you're interested in building an ecosystem of learning that extends to our whole community and creates opportunities to connect and invest, because, we live in this digital age, but what are we without each other? Isn't it those intimate relationships, our colleagues, who learn not to underestimate us, who learn to value us? We can start celebrating the whole person, because again, our schools, which we depend so greatly on, look at just this narrow spectrum of us. So I'm asking you, if you're interested in building an ecosystem of learning in Newport, to reach under your chair, and you too will find your own acorn. And when this session is over, put it in the empty tennis ball can on the check-in counter there, and let us know that you're willing to work with us to build this ecosystem of learning. Thank you.